Hi, it's Thursday. My name is Tanya Uester. I'm coming from my page Botanically, an alchemy of soothing botanic ingredients. And this week we are carrying on with my single series, and I think I'll be at 14 or 15 now. I'll better go check. But we are far along in our series now, so welcome if you're coming for your continued education. Really is very exciting for me to be able to teach you how essential oils work and how they can support your body. Hello, Catherine. I can see you've logged in. Welcome. And as people start logging into my live today, I'll just give them a shout out. So if you want your name in that shout out, go put your comment in, or make any comment in the comments. Go put your comment in the comment. Yes, that makes sense. You know what I mean. All right, so let's kick off today. We are talking about an exciting oil for me specifically because you all know, or that know me, all about gut health. I think quite a lot of our discomforts in life, as well as our dis-ease or disease, stems from poor gut health. I used to be one of those until I started switching my diet, living a more natural life, decreasing toxins, and using natural alternatives to support my body. I am incredibly sensitive to chemicals. Blessed that way, I guess. So I do react a little bit more violently to certain over-the-counter medications. So for me, if you're similar, it's always a good idea to listen to someone who has had past experience, because they may just have something up their sleeves to share with you to try out to see if it's something that works for you too. So welcome to everyone that's just joined in as well. I can see there's a few more people logging in. We are going to get started today. So we're talking about wintergreen. And if you were following on my Botanically page, obviously you could see that I was quite excited. This oil comes from Nepal, if you're purchasing from the exact brand that I like most. And Nepal is on that bucket list for me. It's one of those countries that I've always wanted to visit, so hopefully that will happen soon when we start to travel again. But wintergreen is sourced from Nepal, and it's actually a very labor-intensive process. And these trees grow quite shrubbery actually, and these leaves are then picked, and these women then carry them in these baskets on their back where they go to a pot still. And in the pot still, it's not like a normal distillation where you just put in the plant material and you let the steam go through. They actually have to compress and macerate the wintergreen leaves for in hot water, steep it in other words, before they can go through the steam distillation process. Hello Shirley, I can see you've just logged in as well. Hello Zahira, welcome. I can see more people are coming in. And that maceration process is actually then where the chemical constituents that we really need for the therapeutic benefit actually comes out before the steam distillation. So if you want a little bit more detail on that, please remember that is going to be in the feed of my Botanically Facebook page. I did write in a little bit more detail about those processes there. So let's kick off with wintergreen. And why this oil is so utterly amazing for good gut health is because generally people who've got quite a lot of inflammation, people with highly inflammatory bodies, whether it's from your diet or from genetic predisposition or several other factors, our guts tend to be quite sensitive. And what do we take for inflammation? Anti-inflammatories, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. And what do those do to your gut? If you know what the answer is to that, please put it in the comments. Those of you that have bothered to actually go and read that entire long fable, yet is the Afrikaans word. I love that word. Basically the paper insert that comes with an over-the-counter non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug that you are using for inflammation. If you know what that does to your gut, please put it in the comments. I want to see what kind of audience I'm dealing with today. Hello Marie, welcome. So Marie, if you know what an NSAID does to your gut, go and put it in the comments please. I would be really interested to see what you guys are commenting on there. So wintergreen is really beneficial because although the word salicylic acid is something that a lot of people have now gotten used to, there's a lot more information online about it. There's actually quite a few different molecules, and they all have sort of a different working. So the havoc, Marie says havoc, yes, it causes havoc in your gut. If you want to try and be a little bit more specific, you can put that in there. Yes, it causes havoc. I'll go into a little bit more detail in a second. But basically the main chemical constituent in wintergreen is of course methyl salicylate. I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly to the most people out there. I know we all say things differently, UK English versus South African English versus American English. Maria is saying that AID, they burn her stomach, and this is a real life thing. Quite a few people suffer from that side effect over and above some of the other side effects that you may not necessarily feel. Usually always you've got to take it with food. There are some that you don't have to take with food. Don't know how they quite do that. But yes, it's very irritating to a lot of people's gut linings and to their stomach. What else does it do? If you can go and pop some more comments in there. So methyl salicylate is actually a monoterpene ester. And a monoterpene ester, when used aromatically, is incredibly relaxing and soothing. And topically, it is very rejuvenating to the skin. It actually soothes tissues. It protects against certain kinds of environmental threats. And then if we start looking at the internal, say no, okay? Because there are some esters that can be used internally, but specifically methyl salicylate, which is an ester, a monoterpene ester. It's one of those esters that you definitely should not be using internally. Okay, and it's actually quite interesting when you start digging into the wintergreen. There's quite a few species around, and they used to be used internally quite often. So in the Native American population, they used to actually make a tea from it because of the analgesic benefits. Obviously, they're not consuming a very high concentration of it when you're just steeping it. And then it's also a different format. You're not getting only the aromatic compounds, you're getting the salicylic acid as well. And I'm going to tell you why that's relevant in just a second. But usually these are not good for internal use. Right. So oils that are high in monoterpene esters obviously include wintergreen, but some other oils include lavender, Roman chamomile, helichrysum, and arbor vitae. But obviously wintergreen is like high up on the scale there because it's 99% of the methyl salicylate, only 1% of other smaller percentage of chemical constituents. Okay, so it's a really, really powerful essential oil if that is the chemical constituent you're after. Why would we be after that chemical constituent? Well, essential oils have got a lot of chemical complexity with lots of different chemical constituents, but when you do a GCMS on a very pure wintergreen essential oil, I can see someone just logged in. No comment yet. I think that was Jerry. Is that Jerry's profile pic? Hello, Jerry. Yes, there we go. I can see her profile pic before she's commenting. Welcome, welcome. So when you go on the GCMS analysis, so that's the lab results where they separate the different chemical constituents in the essential oil according to weight and size, and then you can see what's in there. And that's also when you can see when there's contaminants in there, whether it's been adulterated, whether there's lab synthesized chemicals being added, that kind of scenario. But with wintergreen, there's only two. And that's why it's very powerful with the methyl salicylate. But salicylates, they've got functional groups. And whether you're referring to methyl salicylate, like we find in wintergreen, there are some other salicylates also available, and they all have different therapeutic benefits on different tissues of the body. Okay, so it can get quite complicated for something that seems so incredibly simple, where it's just the main chemical constituent. So let's look at salicylic acid, because you will have heard that name maybe a lot in the industry, because that's basically thinking aspirin, but it's a little bit different. It's not the salicylic acid as such, because salicylic acid is actually not an aromatic compound, right? So it's naturally derived from white willow, so willow bark or wintergreen, and then of course meadowsweet. For those of you that know me, that have visited me, I actually grow meadowsweet in my garden as well. It's an absolute miracle that it grows, because it's supposed to grow in a really like bubbling creek, swampy, not vrootwater swampy, but there needs to be water all the time. And I've actually planted them below a sort of waterfall, and then we made with I-beams in the garden. So if there's some splash of the water, especially when the birds come and bath in that water feature, it's amazing, because then they splash water everywhere. And then obviously my meadowsweet gets water from that quite often. But the salicylic acid is naturally derived from those plants, right? But they're not aromatic. So if you would make an essential oil of the willow bark or the wintergreen or the meadowsweet, you would not find salicylic acid in the essential oil, okay? Because it's not aromatic, so through steam distillation, it's actually not going to come out. But salicylic acid is an incredibly important ingredient if you start looking in skincare products, because they add it quite often because of its exfoliating as well as cleansing properties. And you'll see there's quite a few homemade DIY recipes where they sort of suggest you can put an aspirin into your homemade mask if you want to give yourself a little face scrub. I see Marie-Lee has just also logged in. Welcome, welcome. If this is your first time, hope you enjoy. Hope you come back. But there's another well-known salicylic acid, obviously, and this is the acetyl salicylic acid, which is common for aspirin. And this is a lab synthesized component, and it works slightly differently. But what it's used for, obviously, is anti-inflammatory benefits, and it also supports analgesic benefits, so pain and discomfort, but also platelet aggregation. So if there's a blood clotting issue, you would have seen on Monday on my Facebook page, I did a nice Science Monday article where there was this study where they compared using aspirin versus a topical application of wintergreen oil. Just to check what the platelet, if you could get a similar benefit. In other words, the anticoagulating, or the antiplatelet, I should rather say, effect. And it had they both reacted quite similarly. So they said there it would be really good to further study wintergreen essential oil used topically for people who really struggle with taking aspirin internally, for example. So those were the stomach upsets, the irritability in the stomach lining. And this is specifically why wintergreen for me is so incredibly important in supporting my musculoskeletal body when I've got discomfort. Because of the NSAIDs, and no one answered that question to the very full answer that I was looking for, NSAIDs actually increases leaky gut syndrome. And if you're prone to leaky gut, having one of those actually, Marie, you were right, causes havoc in your system. Because remember, with leaky gut, you then start building up additional food sensitivities. And when you have to start cutting out so many different foods, you run the risk of becoming nutrient deficient because your body is just not getting everything that it needs. So definitely something to stay clear from if you are oversensitive, and only really use last resort, okay, which is what I do. I very rarely take them. I probably haven't had one for over 2 years now, because I realized then what it was doing to my gut health, and how it actually destroyed and caused havoc on mine. So what I try and do now is rather use things topically, and you'll find that a lot of topical applications that you find in pharmacies, for example, for when you've got discomfort in your joints and your muscles, actually contain that very molecule which is in wintergreen essential oil, whether they've synthesized it in a lab or whether they've actually isolated it from the real plant. And it's a really warming sensation. It's absolutely amazing. Also got analgesic benefits. So for that, if you want to go that route, you're going to definitely be able to support the discomfort level somewhat with using the essential oil, instead of having to go the full-blown, hectic NSAID, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory route. So really beneficial oil to have around. I also have family members that really love the smell of wintergreen, and if you're asking, oh, I've never smelled wintergreen, what does it smell like? Deep heat, germaline. Those are all, they all contain that the methyl salicylate. By the way, there's quite a few American sweets and root beer and all kinds of things that actually has wintergreen, obviously in very small concentrations, because it has that minty, clean taste in the product itself. All right, so it can also be used for flavoring, but not to be used internally when you're going the essential oil route, please. It's incredibly potent. If you go to Wikipedia, I don't always believe what's in Wikipedia, but if you just look at Wikipedia, they sort of make an analogy, and you can go and investigate that for yourself, please. How many essential oil drops, 1 milliliter, 20 drops, how much aspirin in milligram that is an equivalent to, which is not necessarily the right comparison to make, because there are different molecules, they work slightly differently. They do have the same antiplatelet benefits and analgesic and anti-inflammatory, but they work completely differently because of those functional groups that are actually completely different. Okay, so it's not the same thing. This is not aspirin. Do not ever think that, okay? Just always go and see what the application is that you're going to need it for. All right, so things that are associated with wintergreen essential oil is that it's warming, it's relieving, and it's definitely repairing, because when your muscles or your joints have discomfort, when you either put a warm or a cold pack on there, you always feel a little bit more relieved, and you always feel like it's starting to repair because the discomfort has gone away a little bit, and that's why those words are associated with it. So a lot of people who struggle with discomfort in their joint areas, as well as muscular, and obviously this is one of the essential oils, by the way, that's also gone into my ankle sprain mix for that specific benefit. It really just assists in warming and sort of soothing things down, so that it it's a little bit more movable, and when your muscles are warm, you definitely feel a lot less discomfort. And I can say now I'm finally walking without a brace, really amazing. But I do know that in the morning when I wake up, sometimes I start to see my ankle bone, not there yet because I'm still so inflamed, but during the day when as I start walking and I start using the joint, it gets warmer. If it doesn't get warm enough, I use my Wintergreen, and it definitely supports there. But by the end of the day, obviously you can see the ankle has worked really hard because the inflammation has then increased again. It's a little bit more swollen. But when things are warmer, you are more agile, okay, and then it feels a lot better. The discomfort goes away. So a lot of people with cartilage issues do find the Wintergreen quite nice. I just want to check out all my notes that I jotted down here, especially when you've got dealing with a sort of a discomfort in the belly or the bladder area. Because of that warming sensation, you can definitely apply Wintergreen. Please always dilute it. It's a very strong oil and it can cause sensitivity, so it's always a good idea to dilute your Wintergreen with a carrier oil. And there's also, because of the sort of the cooling and the hottening effect, a lot of people like to add it to their conditioner or their shampoo. It has like a nice tingling effect to your scalp. So there's like a nice spa beauty hack. It's also got a very spa-like fragrance to it, if you're thinking sports massage way. So this essential oil for me is definitely topically a very good essential oil to use. If you particularly love the flavor of Wintergreen, then there's going to be some diffuser blends to look out for on my page tomorrow. I think they're coming out tomorrow, so keep your eye on that. I have got family members who absolutely love the smell of Wintergreen, and they've given me some very nice ideas for diffuser recipes. So have a look there tomorrow. But basically the Wintergreen essential oil for me is probably most beneficial being used topically. So my suggestion is, if you do feel discomfort, reach for the Wintergreen first, and then definitely only go for that anti-inflammatory medication if really necessary, because obviously go and read the safety precautions on that faux yet, the little paper that comes in the medication, where it actually teaches you very nicely. It says it quite explicitly what it does to your gut. So definitely an alternative, a supportive measure that's really good in supporting your gut health, because you're not necessarily going to use the thing that's going to give you the side effects. Okay, so definitely one of the top oils in my save your gut sort of core oils, because I'm someone that has had a lot of bala injuries during my life. I obviously have a very highly inflammatory body as well, so definitely an essential oil that has helped me a lot. If we start looking at emotionally, by the way, if you are going to put it in the diffuser, what does Wintergreen do for you? It's going to help you to move from feeling stubborn to feeling accepting. I think there's quite a few of us that might need this oil in a diffuser with regards to what's going on out there in the world at the moment. So yes, Henriette, I can see you've just joined as well. Very welcome. If you want to go and catch the start of this class, please always remember that you can watch the replay either in the feed on my Facebook page, or you can go and find me on YouTube and subscribe so that you're alerted when a new video has been loaded. It's been absolutely amazing today talking about Wintergreen. It's one of those that I really enjoy using. I actually quite like the fragrance, that minty candy sweet kind of thing. So if it's something that appeals to you, pop it in the diffuser. Look out for the blends tomorrow. And if you're feeling discomfort in your muscles, get that partner, get that carrier oil, and give yourself a soothing massage. But please note, definitely not for internal use, this one. All right, so have a good week. I will see you all next week, Thursday, for the next live. Thank you. Bye-bye.